Manipur is once again on edge. After a period of relative calm, largely during the year of President's rule, tensions and violence have resurfaced following the restoration of an elected government on February 4. At least 11 people have been killed since April 7. The deaths have been reported from Bishnupur district, a Meitei-dominated area, and Ukhrul, where a fresh conflict has emerged between Tangkhul Naga and Kuki communities. On April 26, Tangkhul women's groups attempted to block the movement of Central Security Forces in Ukhrul. The same day, Meitei women-led groups marched towards the Chief Minister's residence in Imphal, demanding justice for the killing of two children. The protests escalated into clashes with security forces, leaving several people injured. Hello, I am Vijayta Singh, and to discuss the resurgence of violence, the evolving security situation, and the emergence of new pockets of conflict in Manipur, we are joined by Lieutenant General Pradeep Chandran Nair, former Director General of the Assam Rifles. Lieutenant General Nair headed the Assam Rifles from June 1st, 2021 to July 31, 2024, overseeing counterinsurgency operations during one of the most volatile phases in Manipur's recent history. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Vijayta. Thank you for having me over, and always a pleasure to be with you and an award winner like you, who's won an award for journalism on Manipur. It can't be any
Oh,
better than this.
thank you so much for the kind words, sir. I would like to begin by asking you about the emerging fault lines in Manipur. There's a new conflict theater that is opening up in Ukhrul district, which is a Naga-dominated area, and the Nagas and the Kukis have lived there side by side for decades. So, what is this? How do you see this new area of conflict emerging? Earlier, it was between the conflict started in May 2023 with skirmishes between Meitei and the Kuki community. Now it has spiraled into this new kind of a conflict between Tangkhul Nagas and the Kukis. So, what do you have to say about this?
Well, to begin with, the conflict between these two communities itself is not new. It happened in the 90s. It was there for almost a decade, 1988 to about 1998. So, between the communities, while the conflict isn't new, but this particular conflict is, of course, new, given that it's just started, I think, in the first week of February 6th or so, 8th or so. So it is a new conflict. While your viewers are quite aware of the Meitei-Kuki conflict, now this has added a new dimension with the third pole of Manipur entering this. And it's not a the Nagas also happen to be the second largest in terms of population. They're about 21-22%, as against the Kukis were about 16-17%, and the Meiteis were about 53-54%. So that's the start point for everyone to understand. And the area where this has happened, Ukhrul, a little south west Litan, is Litan itself is an area where you have population both from both the communities, the Kukis as also the Nagas. And what began as a drunken brawl, that's what I gathered, it was typically not the fight that started between two communities, just a drunken brawl, which thereafter got a ethnic flavor. You know, one community people attacking the other, and then you have had a series of violent activities. You had killings, you have road blockades, and road blockage is not something new in Manipur. Very often this has been happening over the years. So it's added a whole new paradigm to a state which was otherwise gradually edging towards peace. And I want to make a point here, which probably people have missed out. It is a new CM who was just sworn in on the 4th or 5th of February, and
Yes,
around that, just 3-4 days later, this drunken
February
brawl
7th.
starts.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and then this drunken brawl starts immediately after that. Why I'm highlighting this is there is an attempt from agencies which do not belong to our country to spoil the situation there. As it was edging towards peace, you had a CM, as you would know, a new CM, who has been increasingly reaching out to all the communities, uh, for the first time, he's managed to get both the communities who were fighting, Kukis and Meiteis, in, I think, Guwahati, where he had some discussion with them. Never happened before. He's traveled to many places. He's traveled to Ukhrul, tried to meet up with all the communities, trying to restore peace and normalcy. This may not have been to the liking of agencies who would want trouble to fester. And what is happening across the border, on the Indo-Myanmar border across in Myanmar, there you have adequate arms and ammunition that are there that can just come in. So that is the whole context I would like to bring to your notice.
So, by agencies, do you mean the insurgent groups that are active in Myanmar, which have interests in India, especially the banned groups such as PLA or maybe the other Naga groups? What do you mean by agencies?
To be more specific, I see a hand of the. It's quite possible the Chinese could have a hand in this. They've always had a hand. You mentioned PLA. You know, the nearly by its nomenclature itself, they got their name from the PLA of China. Initially armed, equipped, trained, everything from the Chinese. So the other Naga groups, the IM, NSA and IM also, in the 50s, 60s, including the current head Muiwa, he had also gone to China. So there is this China connect which is there, and you're also aware of the fact that Paresh Barua is still in Yunnan, as you know, and he has linkages with all these groups. So it's very easy to put this together and realize that it would be at their behest in some way to ensure, and also take into context what Munir said. Uh, Asim Munir just said in the month of February, I think. Next, we will start from the east. So you need to put all these pieces together. And that is what I actually mean by agencies which are outside of our country.
Okay. Recently, a few people were also arrested, an American and five Ukrainians. They were just crossing the border, using India as a transit to train insurgent groups in Myanmar. You think that could also be linked to the present conflict, which is ongoing?
You're speaking of the American Van Dyke and about 6 or 7
Yes,
Ukrainians who
yes,
were caught in Mizoram. Uh,
yes,
Now, it all started off
yes. Through Mizoram
with the,
border, they had gone to.
yeah, and these are not the only people who have been caught in Mizoram. If you go back a little in time, in the month of March last year, the Chief Minister of Mizoram had raised this issue of an unusually large number of foreigners, and he specified the countries. He said the US, UK, Ukraine. He mentioned these three countries. He said people from these countries are coming, and they're going to places. They're not going to places where tourists usually go. And when confronted, some of them have said that we come here for church-related activities. And I see, and these are, I'm quoting the CM of Mizoram. He said, I see no reason for them to be here. But what is even more alarming, he said, is that these people are going across into Myanmar, in indulging in activities I don't know. So he's raised the alarm more than a year back before these people were caught. And I can tell you from my experience of having been the Director General, in the month of August 2021, it was just 3 months into my taking over as the Director General, and in my second briefing there, the commander there told me, and if you again now join the dots, this is, I'm talking of August 21, February 21 is when the coup happened, and then the PDF and all the Chins started fighting the Myanmar army,
You mean
in a
the
big way. Yeah, Myanmar. So that also happened. That was all happening between, I mean, from the month of April, May onwards, 2021. So in the month of August, when I visited Mizoram, I was told by the people there that it was quite a surprising thing for them to see some drones, etc., flying across in Myanmar, and they didn't know what it was. But the answer to that came a few months later, in the month of February 2022, when for the first time some of the Myanmar posts were attacked by drones. So the movement, to my mind, would have happened of these large number of foreigners getting into Myanmar would have happened started somewhere in 2021, and then you had Manipur happening in 2023, and the ethnic connectivity, the trans-border connect linkages that are there of the Kukizo population this side. And you know that very well. They consider themselves as one. And surely, when all these drones, etc., were going there, some of them could have come this side also later on.
Okay. So, do you think it's fair to just blame foreign agencies for the ethnic tensions in India? Do you think the responsibility somewhere lies with the government also, because the schism between the communities, it has not ended yet. And plus, on April 7, two children were killed in a bomb attack in Bishnupur, and their killers are yet to be caught or identified. Do you think the lack of accountability, the lack of arrests, so people have lost faith maybe in the system, and that is why they are taking to streets? What is your reading on this?
Well, let me clarify here. When I said foreign agencies, I don't mean that they're the only people responsible for this. The start is is here. It's inside us. So it is the ethnic divide that's been there in this state for some time. There are multiple. If you see the periods of time that violence has happened across these communities, three communities. You also had in 2015 when those three controversial bills were passed. You had a lot of violence happening in Churachandpur then also, and the bills were passed. The people in the hills, both the Nagas and Kukis, felt threatened that their lands would be usurped. Uh, so what I'm trying to say is, while there is a divide within the communities, any moment when this divide results in confrontation, in violence, there are people sitting across who will try to encash on this. So that's where. Now, coming to the other part where you asked as to people having lost faith in the government, just a moment back, I told you, this is my personal feeling that the current chief minister has started off very well. He has to be empowered uh, to carry out his duties. There is a lot that needs to be done. Rehabilitation of the people who are internally displaced, the IDPs, internally displaced people, and very recently the Manipur government has put out a figure of about 57, 58,000. So that's something very important that the government was trying to do. It's been trying to do earlier also, but what was seen was that it is not the help or the aid is not going evenly to both the communities. He was attempting that. Then there are other things that were happening. He was talking to the civil society organizations, to the women's group. These are all very powerful people there in Manipur. So I mean, you can't now start blaming the center for it, because after all, it is the state that has to be handling the issue, given that the president's rule no longer is there. And incidentally, during the president's rule, also the governor, Shri Bhalla, did a marvelous job. I think he was able to keep the situation under control. So while you have a new government which has just started out, I mean, in on the third, fourth day itself, if violence starts, you see how he gets restricted. But notwithstanding, he's still been going around making the right noises. I think we need to give him time.
I've been covering this conference since it started. One of the most common thing that we hear from civil society groups in Manipur, and now even the Naga groups have joined, that Assam Rifles is biased. They are tilted. They are towards the Kuki groups, and they try to protect them, shield them, and they open fire on us. They are very harsh with us. But when it comes to cookies, they they're always like they have a soft corner for it. How true is this allegation?
This the word that I use constantly when this question is thrown to me is that this is preposterous. It just cannot happen. For anyone, you covered that, and any journalist like you who's covered Manipur during those peaks of violence in 2020, 23, if you've actually traveled the ground with the Assam Rifle troops or Indian Army troops also at many places, you'd have realized that all of this is false. And why this comes to notice is whenever the Assam Rifles columns prevented the two communities from fighting, let's say the Meiteis, for example, getting into the hills and firing at the or attacking, if I can use that word, some of the Kuki villages, they stopped them from doing that. And you had multiple videos that time of Assam Rifles stopping people and then people getting very agitated, violent. And when you don't allow them to do what they want to do, obviously they'll be called as biased. And it is not, and such instances happened the other way also. Whenever many of these cookies were coming down to attack some of the Meitei villages, they were stopped. Their bunkers in the hills, so many of them have been destroyed. So many weapons of the cookies have been recovered. So it's not fair to say this, but the issue that everyone must keep in their mind is that Assam Rifles has got a mix of both the Meiteis, Nagas, or all the three communities. So when you have soldiers from these communities, how can anyone be doing something which is partial? And Assam Rifles has been there for the last 190 years. We're in the 191st year. Uh, what has suddenly changed after 2021 for Assam? Nothing. They're sons of the soil, the sentinels of the northeast, and despite all this, whenever there is something happening in the past 3 years from the time this trouble has started in Manipur, every year has seen floods. Uh, who reaches out first? And then you see the glorification that happens of Assam Rifles. Just see last monsoon, look at the monsoon before that. There's a lot of glorification, and suddenly everything, all of this is forgotten. Uh, the point I'm trying to make is that this allegation is totally absurd, uncalled for, and it really demoralizes the soldiers a lot.
So, was this ever the talking point in the government? This alleged bias, because a lot of Meitei legislators also and Naga legislators also wrote to the Home Minister and the Prime Minister about the supposed biasness of the Assam rappers. Did it ever come up in any kind of a
Yeah,
security
since we are
review
talking
meeting?
about the present context, you said this happened on 25th. Uh, 25th, there
No,
was
I'm
this
talking
allegation.
about previous instances also when they have complained.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, all the government, Assam Rifles, Army, everyone has been putting out statements to suggest that nothing of this kind uh, was happening. It is very unfair to say that. And let me complete the part, though you didn't allow me to say that, that even on
No,
the
no, please,
27th,
please continue.
25th was when this allegation came that it was being seen that Assam Rifle people are giving uniform and carrying the cookies in their vehicles. Are there any photographs? Are there any videos? These are just narrative stories that have been spun to create this kind of a attitude towards Assam Rifles. It is false. So just the next day, 26th, the Home Ministry, I think, put out a statement that all of this is false.
Yes, the PIB did a fact check on this. So, so how do you see, like, what is the way forward now? Since all the communities are now embroiled in some kind of a conflict with each other. So, what is the way forward now? Because Manipur, I think, goes to elections also next year, early next year. And how will this pan out? Will we see an escalation of violence, or this is being engineered by some groups, some vested interests? What is your take?
Um, I will start with a point which I'll again come clarify towards the end, that the solution largely lies in the hands of the people of Manipur. And I'll emphasize this towards the later part. But let's see, the first and the most important thing that has to be addressed is the security related issue, which means the security forces have to, they're already in that process, recover as many weapons and ammunition that are out there. It's highly weaponized society. We know the large number of weapons that went in. Today, if you see statistically, the number of weapons that went out were about 6,000 odd. But as per statistics, more than 7,000 have come back. But yet, weapons are there. So, my take on this is it is not necessary that all the weapons that went out are the same ones that have come in. It could well be that weapons of a higher quality went out, and those that have come back, are not the same ones.
You
So,
mean
that is
the
one. So,
ones looted from the police armories?
armory, yes. I'm talking of that. 6,000 plus arms and 1.25 lakh of ammunition, all of that which went.
So,
The
according
second
to
thing which,
my information, if I may interrupt, around 4,500 of the looted police weapons have come back, other than the other weapons. So, this is the statistics right now. But I would like to also know. I'm sorry to interrupt you. how are these other weapons getting into the state now, especially in the presence of heightened security across the state?
Yeah, you made a mention of these figures, 4,000 something having come back. There was also a story of some weapon which was looted from the valley. It, some of them went across also. They were sold to the Nagas, and the Nagas in turn sold it to the Kuki Zo people, and the same weapon was found in Churachandpur. If you covered Manipur, you know very well a weapon looted in the valley. There's no way
Circular
you'll find
economy.
it. Yeah, so that's one route, but largely it's also weaponized society across. Today, you just see what's across Manipur. You have the states of Chin, which is largely trouble, a little south Rakhine, where the Arakan army is there, and plethora of weapons. Arakan army, it's largely this is my hypothesis again. It was raised by the Chinese to take care of our Kaladan multimodal project. So, though they have not entirely playing to their tunes, but there is a huge amount of weapon proliferation that is there across. And I mentioned a while ago about the connect that they have with our people here, the Kukizo people who are here. So a large number of those weapons are coming from there also. And the
Okay.
Naga groups also have been indulging in this for years. You have a certain faction of the Nagas who are there across. Ali Command, which is sitting across Ukhrul. You have some top IM, NSC and IM people who are sitting there who are indulging in all this, then contrabands, drugs, all of that.
But isn't NSC and IM in peace talks with the government? There's a ceasefire and they're not supposed to indulge. Isn't there a monitoring mechanism for it?
There is a ceasefire which is in place since 1997. So that's 26 plus that is 30 years almost. Uh, but NSC and IM has while you know they have their camps where they are ceasefire camps where they're located. The largest one being in Hebron near Dimapur. There are certain ground rules that have been laid out that they are not supposed to go out of their camps, not supposed to be indulging in extortion, but they're doing all of that. Extortion is still rife, and it's not just the NSA9. You have the other K faction which is not in ceasefire, but and they are doing it. But the point I'm trying to make is, it is also the case that the people who are with weapons, whether they are Kukis, whether they are Meiteis, whether they are Nagas, all of them are indulging in this extortion. You had a certain faction of the UNLF Pambai, which came for ceasefire in 2023 October or so.
Right.
They are in camps in Manipur, but there is a huge pushback amongst the Meitei people. They're not liking them. Of course, they were also part of all this turmoil that happened, but they're again indulging in large-scale extortion, which is not to the liking of the people there.
You mean the UNLF Pambai
Yeah,
faction?
So the
Articles.
point I'm trying to make is nobody follows these ground rules. They're supposed to follow them, is there in writing, but they do not stick to that.
Yeah, sir, I was asking you about the weaponization of society, as you mentioned, and how do these weapons make you explained about the Naga Kuki, the looted weapons coming back to the Kukizo groups through Naga groups via Meitei groups. But what about the other sophisticated weapons which are making way into the state, and you think that's adding to the problem?
Yeah,
And how do you stop it?
I can probably guess the next question that you're going to ask also. So I'll give that.
Prophecy.
Well, see, it's an open border. It's not a porous border. I call it an open border. 1643 kilometers. Now, of course, we've undertaken this mission of fencing it and putting up certain surveillance equipment, etc., restricting the free move regime to just 43 places from where you can cross. So all of that is in place. But on ground, what happens is this 1643 kilometers now, a very, very small portion of it is fenced. Uh, these are areas you can just cross across. So 1643 kilometers, to expect Assam Rifles to be deployed along the entire frontage, I'll just give you a mathematical calculation. Nobody does a mathematical deployment, by the way. they are deployed in company operating bases, which is 60 to 80 people at one place. Similarly, the next place, and from there they go out to patrol the borders. Now, uh, it, there, like I said, there will be gaps between these company operating bases, and these people who come in are just in few numbers, 5, 10. They can very easily come. It's very forested terrain, thickly forested. There are fast-running streams, rivers, and the routes of ingress and egress coming and going out. What is there this year may not be there next year because of monsoon. You'll have new tracks developing, villagers creating new tracks, and notwithstanding the rules of the free move regime, along the border, whether Nagaland, whether Manipur or Mizoram, or even in South Arunachal Pradesh, people move at free will. There's nothing that you can stop. What are they supposed to carry in this free move regime? As per the earlier rule, it was only head loads. Now the new free move regime rules which have come probably doesn't allow that also. But without that also, it is very easy for people to cross on both sides.
So you
And the
think
second,
fencing is
which I think is related, would be why are you not able to stop the movement despite being deployed on the border? Because this is again something that people write very loosely that Assam Rifle is not doing its job probably on the borders. They're not able to stop. It's very difficult. It's this border is very different. It's not the Pakistan border or Bangladesh border which is fenced, and the trans-border movement of people that happens. That doesn't happen there. It doesn't happen on the Chinese border either. This is a very
unique?
unique border. Yeah, and the people there along this complete Indo-Myanmar border say that for us, the partition happened in 1937 when Burma was made a separate administrative unit of the British. So somebody sitting suddenly made a line, and we were separated. So our centuries old connect cannot be stopped, and it is very difficult. Even if I, since we are talking about border fencing, even when we get down to doing that, there will be a lot of resistance as is seen now.
Right. I think, so that will be all. And thank you so much for the deep insights that you gave us.
Thank you.
And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much.